Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Time has flown very fast and it's crazy to think that I've now been living in my first home for over 3 months. For those of you who are new to the channel, I bought my first home in the northwest of Auckland back in June. In this video I'll be breaking down my weekly expenses as a solo first home buyer in Auckland. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or even contemplating a relocation to Auckland, by watching this video I hope you'll get a sense of what your weekly costs could look like and create your own budget to weigh up these big decisions. Please make sure to subscribe down below to see all my future content around buying your first home, personal finance, and investing. I'll be breaking this video down into a few sections. First, I'll be covering the costs before and after buying a house. This includes things like rates, water, electricity, internet, rubbish collection, all that kind of thing. Second, I'll be talking about interest rates. Of course, at the moment, these are increasing rapidly as inflation fears worsen, and I'll offer my honest thoughts and experiences around this. Third, I'll be discussing what you can expect to pay for furniture and essentials to make your home livable. So let's discuss the costs. Before buying a property, there are many typical costs you'll incur during the process. The first is a builder's report. Most industry professionals recommend getting one of these completed before purchasing any home. What they do is they go around the home looking for any structural damage that could make the home a hazard to live in. This might include leaks, which they'll identify with a moisture detector, poor insulation, or even plugs that will need repair. For some properties, it may also make sense to get a toxicology report, which will show whether the property has been used to manufacture drugs. The cost for a builder's report can range anywhere from about $500 all the way up to $1,000, depending on how urgent and comprehensive the assessment is, such as the toxicology report. As I purchased my first home as a new property, I'd be the first person to live in it, and as such I decided not to get a builder's report as I have a 10-year builder guarantee should anything go wrong. Next up is legal fees, which can widely vary in price depending on the complexity of the deal. Things that can make the legal work more time intensive for the lawyer and therefore more expensive include KiwiSaver withdrawals, deals involving a mortgage, complex titles such as cross leases, multiple purchasers or guarantors, and even government schemes such as first home partner. Costs here can vary widely, but generally would sit between $1,500 and $4,000. Personally, I paid $1,500 with a legal firm in Avondale. Most first home buyers will also need a valuation as a condition on their mortgage. If you're buying a new home, you'll often need one before it's built and one after to make sure it was built per the original plans. If you buy an older home instead, the bank will usually only require one. The cost of these can range from about $800 all the way up to $2,000, and in my case I paid about $1,600 as I required two, with the first being urgent to meet my loan conditions within just 2 weeks, which was my due diligence period. All up, you can expect to pay roughly anywhere from about $2,000 up to $5,000 to close on a house purchase. So now let's talk about utilities. This will be heavily dependent on a number of factors, including the size of the house, where the house is located, and the number of people living in it. So to provide some context behind the numbers I'll be sharing, my house is 2 bedrooms, 90 square meters. It's a new build with recycled rainwater for the toilets and outdoor taps, and it is just me living here. The first expense is the rates. Here in the northwest of Auckland, the rates on a house such as this is about $2,084 a year. Next up is electricity, and I use contact energy. Over the past couple months, I've averaged around 9 kilowatt hours usage per day, with about half the week spent working from home, with the heater running for a couple hours a day. Each month this comes to about $100, or just over $3 a day. I also pay for broadband internet through contact energy, coming to $65 a month. Here in Auckland, we must also pay for water as this is not included in our rates. On average I'd pay roughly about $1 a day, or maybe just over this. However, when you read the breakdown of the charges, this is mainly just the fixed line charges, as the variable charge is pretty low. Another item not included in the rates here is the rubbish collection. I pay $5.85 a fortnight with Econo Waste to collect this weekly, coming to about $3 a week. Adding up all these expenses, the overheads for the property come to about $94 a week, including rates. The second aspect of house ownership I want to discuss is interest rates, which for many first home buyers will be their largest expense by far. At this current time, interest rates are increasing with no end in sight. In the news you'll hear many references to something called the OCR, or the official cash rate, which is a rate set by the Reserve Bank for overnight settlements between financial institutions. Simply put, the tool they're using to fight inflation has a material impact on short-term mortgage rates, which are typically less than a year. As you can see from this chart, the OCR is back to about the same levels as we saw in 2015. And if we consider even the most conservative of expectations from market commentators and banks right now, we'll very shortly be returning to levels not seen since 2009. So it is therefore very likely we'll see floating mortgage rates rise by a similar level. Several first-home buyer schemes for newly built properties, such as ANZ's Blueprint to Build and ASB's Back My Build, were initially advertised at sub 2% levels around the middle of last year. Borrowers who financed or are about to finance their properties under these products will be directly affected, as we've seen over the past year the floating rates increase proportional to the OCR. So this is something to be conscious of if you opt for one of these rates. In all transparency, I'm on the ASB Back My Build scheme, and in the past 3 months my rate has shot up from 2.34% to 4.84% now, costing over $10,000 more in interest per year than the terms when I signed up. Aside from floating rates, New Zealand borrowers can also borrow with fixed term rates, typically between about 1 and 5 years. These rates are less influenced by the OCR and are instead highly influenced by their wholesale swap rates. Without boring you on how bank funding works, it simply allows them to match the term of their funding with the term of your fixed loan to lock in the profit margin. These rates can easily be found on interest.co.nz and are supplied anonymously by a New Zealand bank. As you can see, the bank funding costs have been increasing, which are reflected in the fixed term mortgage rates. Of particular note is the 1-year fixed rate, which in recent weeks has seen most banks increase their 1-year mortgage rates to about 5.15%. If we consider rates a year ago were around 2.09%, there has been a significant increase over the past year. Nobody can say right now what the next year will look like. A year ago, nobody was predicting the kind of upwards momentum we've seen in the market for the past year. So if you're looking to buy your first home, be sure to do your own research. And if you're thinking about a floating loan, a good idea may be to calculate the level of interest rate increases that you can afford, as the future is highly uncertain, perhaps more so than any other time in recent history. This is something I did before buying, and in hindsight I'm really glad I did, as this allowed me time to develop a contingency plan just in case things get any more heated. The third significant cost to first home buyers is the cost to buy furniture and the necessary items required to putting together a functioning house. It goes without saying that buying second-hand is significantly cheaper, often with no compromise on quality. TradeMe and Facebook Marketplace are great resources in New Zealand, and they will allow you to get a first sense of what things cost. Once you know the second-hand prices, you can then go to pricebuy.co.nz, which allows you to see the cheapest price across the whole country for the very same item. By comparing the new and the second-hand prices, you'll be able to make an informed decision whether it is worth buying new. Often, it probably won't be. You'll also want to make a conscious decision whether to spend a bit more or a bit less on certain items. A cooking pan, for example, is used nearly daily, so it might make sense to invest a bit more at, say, a Briscoe's or Stevens for a quality one. On the other hand, a measuring cup, for example, will be used a lot less frequently and won't incur much wear and tear, so it might make sense to check out Kmart or the Warehouse to save money on these less essential items. I've put together a range of costs you may have to consider when you set up a house from my experience. Starting with appliances, at the bare minimum you'll need a fridge, a microwave and a washing machine. For these 3 items you'll expect to pay at least $2,000 for these new. If you're buying second hand, however, this can be halved. With all the miscellaneous other kitchen items needed, expect to pay another $500 for plates, cups, pots, pans, knives, that kind of thing. Following on from that, a couch will set you back anywhere upwards from about $1,500 for a simple 2-seater. However, if you buy second hand, you can save at least half of this, as the resale on couches is pretty poor and there are many great deals online. A TV, depending on its size and quality, will set you back anywhere up from about $800. If you look for a second hand one, often the price is only 20% or so lower, so there aren't huge savings from my experience when I was looking for a 65-inch one. Beds are another large cost, with a new queen-size base and mattress coming in at about $1,000. Here's a secret for those of you in Auckland: Onehunga has a lot of bed stores that have great value. Second hand, you'll often find people basically giving these away. However, for something like this, I wouldn't personally buy second hand. Study desks and chairs are commonplace these days for those fortunate enough to be able to work from home. A simple desk will be around $200 new, and about the same for a new chair. If you're buying quality, chairs are sold around 20% cheaper second hand, while desks are often heavily discounted, even more so than the chairs. And lastly, curtains are something that many new properties don't come with. In my case, I had to buy all the window furnishings, and it can be an expensive exercise. For off-the-rack curtains, expect to pay a couple $100 per window per curtain. If If you're buying custom-made curtains, expect to pay nearly $1,000 per curtain per window. Roller blinds are common these days as they're contained within the frame and cost a lot less than curtains. When buying these new, expect them to cost a few $100s each per window. All in all, if you're buying new items from scratch and don't need curtains, expect to pay at least $5,000 to get started on fitting out your house. If you can, definitely look into second-hand deals as you might just score a bargain. You'll also need access to a vehicle that is large enough to pick up couches, TVs, washing machines and fridges. So if you're buying second-hand, that would be something to consider. Expect to pay at least $2,500 for solely second-hand items, but it pays to have some extra set aside in the case that you can't find what you're looking for in the second-hand market. I hope you all enjoyed my video, and if you did, it would mean a lot if you subscribe to the channel to see all my future content in the personal finance investing space. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers.